viewers from around the multiverse, prepare to bask in unprecedented glory, because today I'm going to be commencing my Netflix epic review appertaining to the Ash vs. Evil Dead Demon Spawn action figure. Is this action figure a paradigm of resounding perfection, or is it abysmal, or is it characterized by insipid mediocrity? In my objective opinion, in the form of a quantitative score, as a $20 figurine, I'd raise this figure to be an 8 out of 10. Why? It practically hits all cylinders. It has a meticulously detailed sculpt, it has high quality shadings, its aesthetics are appealing and are true to the likeness of the character, and of course this figurine is a robust, high quality, state-of-the-art, stellar, intricately detailed action figure whose epicness is unprecedented. Unfortunately, to my dismay, I need to deduct some points since this action figure lacks articulation in his fingers. In stark contrast to Toy Biz Marvel Legends action figure, he's devoid of finger joint articulation and toe articulation. He does, however, possess ample points of articulation, but he could have utilized 32 to 40 points of articulation. He possesses likely around 20 points of articulation, somewhere within that range. Presumably 14 to 26 points of articulation. That would be my estimate off the get-go. He comes with a grand total of 3 heads, all of which are interchangeable. He's a sinister, demonic, sadistic, malicious, malevolent, malign, cunning, conniving being or evil entity. He's very slender and lean. He looks like he's ready to devour his adversaries. I love his facial expressions. He looks like he's gawking. If you just look at this visage, the one that is not covered up, you see that he's essentially gawking with his mouth and jaw wide open. This one has a more sinister look. He looks like he's up to no good, and he looks like he has a devious nature, and he's contemplating how he can accost his adversaries. And of course, default face has more of a neutral expression, more of a vacant expression. He does, however, look poised for battle, so he looks like he's battle ready. He does seem to have some semblance of a diaphragm joint. Of course, you can't really test articulation unless you unbox him, so I just have to go off what I can see. It's hard just to tell. I'm uncertain as to whether or not his elbows and knees are double jointed, but I'm presuming that they're not in this context. However, they may be. It's an enigma at the moment, and I have no way of ascertaining whether or not they're double jointed unless I open him for myself. It gives us a little I was about to say biography on the back, but I think that this little description just gives a synopsis about the series itself. But I'm not going to bother reading it. I'm going to abstain from reading it because my time is sacrosanct, and I don't need to read possible biography or a synopsis about a show that I don't watch. You know, I'm just in it for the inanimate objects, for the hunks of plastic, aka the Ash vs. Evil Dead Demon Spawn action figure. And this is being stationed on top of empty salt shaker that's devoid of coarse kosher salt. So other figures in the series I'm likely going to desist from buying. They're outside the parameters of my budget, but the main reason why I'm marking this action figure down, even though it is high quality shadings, a high quality sculpt, high quality aesthetics, and ample points of articulation, as well as interchangeable heads, is because it's just not up to par with an $8 Toys Marvel Legends action figure. It lacks 32 to 40 points of articulation, it lacks a Build-A-Figure piece, it lacks a comic book, and it doesn't offer 250% more value than Toys Marvel Legends action figure. I really have those action figures have tremendous extrinsic value and tremendous intrinsic value because PVC plastic is ineffably epic and an invaluable resource for the avid devout hardcore action figure collector. Nonetheless, this action figure is not up to par with his Toys Marvel Legends counterparts articulation-wise, accessory-wise, nor value-wise. However, he does have merit. He could have utilized more points for articulation, more interchangeable heads, and he could have came bundled with additional figures as well as a Build-A-Figure piece for some other type of demon. But he's a decent army builder figure. I think I have 8 or 9, and at this point I'm just going to forgo buying anymore because they're rendering me more destitute, more indigent, and more impoverished, and I can't afford to keep hemorrhaging money on figures as epic as these. So NECA did a stellar job, but if they're going to charge us $20, and please ensure that more figures are bundled with your boxes, or I should say ensure that more figures are bundled inside your packages or boxes, and ensure that your figures come with more accessories, more interchangeable heads. Ensure that they come with Build-A-Figure pieces. Ensure that they come with a comic. Just don't give us a box with one figurine and 2 interchangeable heads. It's not really enough for me to vindicate paying $20+ unless you find yourself to be a hardcore, avid, devout, Ash vs. Evil Dead fan. So I'm rating this figure to be an 8 out of 10 at best, and I'm also going to augment the score and embellish a rating simply because he's an army builder figure. But for $10 I would have easily given him a 9 out of 10, but because he's $20 and an army builder figure, I'm going to be magnanimous and generous and give this figurine an 8 out of 10. So I apologize that I am ranting and raved and prattled on, but it is what it is. Thanks for watching. I hope that you found this video to be insightful and enthralling. Have a wonderful, blissful, marvelous day. Goodbye.